Prime Minister Mark Carney is on the road again. He's on a week-long trip to the United Arab Emirates and South Africa as he tries to build new trade partners in the wake of Donald Trump's tariffs. Let's get down to business with our City Talks panel. Joining us today is Celina Caesar-Chavannnes, Jeff Rutledge, and Marion Nader. Thank you very much for joining us. Okay, let's dive right into this. Mark Carney looks very good on the world stage. He's a good statesman. Do you think that he's going to be able to accomplish anything relevant on this trip? He's done a number of trade missions, and building new trade partners is key. Marion, we'll start with you today.
So I think that's where the test is going to be, is that you can have these bilateral conversations, but if it doesn't translate into diversifying the market and getting results at home that can really translate that people will be impacted, then it's just going to be a photo op and not policy changes.
How do you judge him on the world stage, Jeff?
Well, look, I think we need a leader who presents, in a formal and statesman-like sense, as you've reflected upon. And so that's certainly a box that I think Prime Minister Carney can achieve. But I think the real kind of challenge here is that he is out yet again on a trip away from home when Canadians are very concerned about their pocketbooks and coming off the tail end of a budget that did not have any real indications towards the average Canadian on how these transformational projects and transformational investments, using air quotes here, are going to change their day-to-day lives right now.
Celina, I'll let you jump in on that.
You know what? I think there's a mix of both here, where he is the adult on the stage coming in, and he's a very seasoned person who could show that diplomacy, as well as being able to have some of those international relationships that have been frayed really solidified. And I really don't think that this is where Canadians are looking to see, will this translate into my pocketbook necessarily? We need that trade diversification. We need that ability to have those diversified markets. So that's what they're going to be looking for. Can we do that and still achieve some of the domestic contributions that he had in the budget at home?
So while Carney is doing photo ops with world leaders, Pierre Poilievre's numbers are sliding, according to a new poll. Now, Jeff, he has a leadership review in January. How much attention are the people voting paying to that? Because they want a conservative leader who's going to win the next election.
Yeah, well, I think these are two very different paths right now, right? Like, Pierre, heading into the leadership convention, needs to secure his base. And I think he feels confident about his ability to do that right now. But the reality is, on the other side of that leadership convention, he has to be able to convince Canadians that he can grow beyond that peak that he hit before the election. And I think that Canadians are expecting to see a shift and a change to match the current environment. And he has
Marion's shaking her head. I'm going to let her jump in.
He has to be able to do that to be successful.
Well, and I think he tried to do that after he lost, but it failed. Like, even just last week in his response, to some of the media, he is who he is, and this is who he is. So he's not going to change, to try to be a more cuddly person. So
do you think Canadians will ever warm up to him? Do you think he can change enough, or is he just not going to change?
I just think that he is who he is. That's why he's so popular in the conservative camp. You're right, he has solidified that base, but is it going to translate to the rest of Canadians? I don't think so.
Celina.
He has not changed at all. He's still punchline Pierre, who comes on and tries to get the soundbite. And what we really need to see is an official opposition that is going to challenge Carney, going to challenge some of those policies that he puts forward. And we're not really seeing that translate well, and that's what Canadians want, an official opposition that could galvanize the country, galvanize the energy around some of the things that we really need. And Pierre is not the guy that's going to attract that.
It's 2024 all over again.
Yeah.
Okay, Jeff. So let's assume he passes the leadership review in January. Mm-hmm. Does that guarantee him a long tenure as the leader?
Not necessarily, and I am looking at the calendar for next year and what the prospects are on a potential federal election. I think there's a very real chance that we're back into a general election in 2026. Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
Minority governments tend to last just under 2 years.
Absolutely, and we've seen what has happened in the most recent budget vote. This kind of horse trading to accomplish things while there's leadership conventions going on for both leadership runs going on for both the Conservatives and the NDP. It is a very tenuous situation, and if I was looking at it purely from a political math sense, and I was advising Prime Minister Carney, I would probably tell him to go while he's looking at an opposition that is not as strong as they could be at a moment. So, again, Pierre needs to be able to present on the other side of a leadership convention that he can take the party into the next general election and, most importantly, win.
But would there be any way to remove him as leader before an election?
I mean, that's spitballing at that point. I'm
Right.
not sure that I'd be able to
Not
do the math
really.
on that. I mean, we saw with what happened with Trudeau and Carney that you can do a swap and secure victory if that is the course change that the country is looking for. You know, ifs and buts on what it could look like on the other side, but I think the Conservative movement as a whole has some important questions to ask itself to ensure that they feel, as has been discussed, you know, that there is a profound opposition to what is going on and that there is a plan that shows how we as Conservatives would do it differently.
You need the right person. Yeah.
Let's talk about the F-35 jets. This is a fascinating buy, $28 billion for jets. The deal was procured with the U.S., but then entered the trade war saga. And now you have Sweden's king coming in, courting the Carney government, trying to get them instead to buy Saab jets. What say you, Marion?
So I think it's really interesting because if the country wants state-of-the-art technology, stealth technology that is compatible with NORAD and NATO, then it's the F-35. But this is more than just about fighter jets and planes. This is about how Canada defines itself on the world stage in terms of defense. So do you want to be an ally with the U.S.? Then you go with the F-35s. But if you want to be an independent country that makes your own defense priorities, then you go with Saab, something else. So it's more than just about the planes, but also it's about how do we want to defy ourselves.
But it's also about a trade war.
Yes.
Because if you cancel that agreement, imagine what the repercussions would be from Donald Trump.
100%. And this is as much about procurement as it is about foreign policy. So
They're all intertwined,
they're all
aren't they?
very intertwined. And so there's a very delicate balance here that needs to be had. And Marion, you're not wrong. Like we can have both, but how do we do that in a way that doesn't further disenfranchise our American counterparts, but at the same time says we are an autonomous sovereign nation that can make our defense decisions? And that is going to be a tricky balance for Carney at any moment, but especially with a procurement budget that is so huge that it has actually turned into also a foreign policy buy.
Jeff, I'll give you the final word on
Yeah,
this
well,
one.
I think this points to one of the greatest challenges that we have faced, at least from a defense perspective in this country for a number of decades, which is how do we effectively procure in this country, making sure that we have clear and competitive opportunities for different companies to come in, commit to industrial benefits here in Canada, but most importantly, we can do our best to detach ourselves from the U.S., but Western security priorities are Canadian security priorities, and we need to make decisions that protect our country and make sure that we can operate effectively with our allies.
I think Canadians are using this as leverage. The government's using this as leverage, that they can use. Looking like they're being courted by the Swedes, they are, but they can use this as leverage against the Americans.
Okay, I'm sure we'll discuss this again. Thank you very much to my panel for joining us. Much appreciated.
Thank you.